I'd like to call this meeting of the King George County Board of Supervisors to order. We would like to have an invocation by Mr. Collins. You'd all rise, and then the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Lord, as we start this new year, we praise you for the last year, and we look forward to the new year, what you have in store for us. Please bring us together. The work is one for the goodness of the county. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right. The first motion the first order of business is the call for nominations for election of chair for this current year. Do I have a nomination?
I'd like to make a motion to make Mr. Richard Granger chair.
Second.
Are there any others? Discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. I have a roll call vote, please.
Aye.
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 Motion is passed, and Mr. Granger is the chair, and so I am going to officially pass the gavel to Mr. Granger.
All right, I'd like to say thank you to my colleagues for the nomination and the vote of confidence. With that said, I will move on to the election of the vice chair, and I'll open the floor for any nominations.
I'll make a nomination of Mr. T.C. Collins.
Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, we have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? I'll vote by roll call.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Mr. Collins, you're the vice chair. And I believe Mr. Stonehill will have the opportunity to move again. Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. I'm going to move on to the adoption of the meeting schedule for 2023. We have a recommended schedule in our packet with the the first Tuesday in July and the first Tuesday in November not being a regular board meeting, similar to this year. But I will open it to a motion if anyone would like to make one.
I'll make a motion to accept the calendar as presented in our packet.
Second.
Motion properly seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Cuthbert?
So I want to point out to everyone to make sure we're all understanding, if we adopt it as presented in July, we will go 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks without having a meeting. And in November, we will go 5 weeks without having a meeting. So I was just curious if anyone would entertain for the months of July and November to hold, since we're only going to hold one meeting anyway, to hold it on the second Tuesday. We just would have a conflict with planning commission meetings.
I'm certainly amenable to that. If we would like to do that, we do have a motion properly seconded, so it would require an amendment if that was the desire, though.
I'll amend my motion. Did I do that right? I'll
I'll
amend my
entertain,
motion with the suggestion Ms. Kupka gave of changing the November and July meetings to the second Tuesday and a location to be determined. Do I need anything more on that?
do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion properly seconded.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, ma'am.
Furtherance of discussion, Mr. Chair, thank you. So, Mr. Dines, if we do this, who, would there be coverage? Because don't you also cover the planning commission meeting? So how would that work?
Yes, ma'am. The planning commission actually advertises all their meetings, so they're kind of the second week are usually the priority. However, they don't always have meetings, so that's one possibility. They may not even have anything to discuss at that time, but of course, we wouldn't know that all the way from now. But we could maybe work it out with Jeff and his protege.
We've done it before.
Thank you. I, I just wanted to make sure the public would have the opportunity to participate online if they wanted to as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Collins.
Yes, while we're discussing the yearly meetings, may I suggest to the board that we start penciling in for January Thursdays for special meetings for the budget and CIP work session, so we can go ahead and get a room available. That's amenable to the board for at least the first couple of months.
I'm not sure if Mr. Miller has a plan for when to start those meetings for the budget, but I'll leave it to him to provide that information.
The process with the department heads and the finance director and myself starts next week. Actually, I think the week following. And then we would hope to have something ready to go, and we would present a calendar to you, if you will, of meeting times. We're fine to add in a Thursday. And so, but I don't think you would probably be ready to go yet until February on the budget. If you want to meet in terms of other ideas, then certainly we can make accommodations for Thursday meetings in January.
Your schedule for the budget work sessions, I would hope that we can be on Thursdays, but secondly, Mrs. Bender was talking about last year, just a couple weeks ago, about work sessions in regards to our mission and vision for the year. If that's something that you all would like to entertain.
I certainly don't mind having that discussion, but this is for the proposed regular meeting schedule, so I think that would fall outside of this discussion, so it might be something to have after we get through the procedural portions of this meeting.
Okay.
Did anyone else have any discussion? All right, we have a motion properly seconded, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries. Thank you. And we'll move on to, I'll entertain a motion on the bylaws.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I ask, there was a board resolution to adopt a regular meeting schedule. Do you need a motion to adopt that resolution separately? Or would,
Question. Ms. Lackey, could you, I would assume we would want to adopt the resolution.
Yes, I think that that would be wise, since the motion, as Ms. Kafka pointed out, did not specifically reference the resolution. So for good measure, I would recommend it.
Thank you. Then I'll entertain a motion on that resolution.
I'll move to adopt the resolution to adopt a regular meeting schedule for the King George County Board of Supervisors for 2023 with the July and November meeting dates amended.
Second.
Motion properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries. Ms. Kupka, thank you for catching that resolution. At this point, I will now move on to the bylaws, and I will entertain a motion on the bylaws.
I'll move to adopt the bylaws as presented with edits for January 3, 2023.
Second.
Motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Collins?
On page 7, deferral or withdrawal may be initiated by the board or an applicant in any way for the following ways for public hearings. On number 1, it was slashed out, take or defer action. I would like to keep that in so you could take action, because that one only defers. And of course, on the on page 10, to get rid of that whole section in regards to number 3, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, in regards to the bylaw that was passed just recently. Thank you.
Mr. Collins, what was the first one you had mentioned?
Page 7, number 1, formerly it looks like it was 3. The board may defer action on matter, including referral back to the planning commission of any land use issue within this jurisdiction. It used to say may take or defer.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion properly seconded, and I know Mr. Collins has asked for some modifications. Is there anyone that would like to make a motion to amend it, or do we want to move forward with the current bylaws as presented?
Chair, I have a question for Ms. Lackey about if we change one of them. Would that wait
Go ahead,
after?
Ms.
Ms. Lackey, on the 7, number 1, if we did keep the original, how would that change anything? Number 1, the edits in here, or if we kept the original?
So the intent of the amendment is just to add kind of a subheading about deferrals and withdrawals. So that just says the board may defer, but you don't have to defer. You could take action. So my intent with the drafting is you can take action or defer, but I inserted a subsection that says specifically defer or withdraw. So I think it's a little bit redundant to keep taken, but I have no objection. It wouldn't change the meaning if you all feel that it's clearer that way.
All right, thank you.
Okay, then I'm just going to move forward. We have a motion properly seconded. Was there any further discussion? Okay, then all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Chair votes aye, motion carries.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I think we overlooked voting on the clerk of the board. If we could maybe hit on that item.
Did jump over that. I apologize and thank you for bringing that back to my attention. I'm a little rusty. So I will entertain a motion for the nomination for a clerk of the board, which I know historically has been our county administrator.
I'll make a motion to nominate Mr. Christopher Miller as our clerk of the board.
Second.
All right, motion properly seconded. Do I have any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries. And I now will entertain a motion on the Service Authority Board of Directors appointment.
I'll make the motion. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, I had an opportunity to review the Service Authority appointments are for 4-year terms. And
Okay.
so anyone who was appointed is fulfilling, if not a full 4-year term, the remainder of the terms. So I checked with Ms. Petrusky, and it appears that the currently appointed board will serve through the end of this calendar year, unless there's any changes that are necessary.
I'm going to assume no, based on the fact that I see our 3 citizens appointees that are all in attendance. So with that, I guess we will just move upon that motion. And at this point, I will recess the King George County Board of Supervisors meeting and defer to the Service Authority to give them the opportunity to have their meeting.
I'd like to call to order the Service Authority, the King George County Service Authority Board of Directors meeting. And again, I will hold that until we are ready to adopt who the new chairman is. And so as per what we did with the Board of Supervisors, I would ask for one of the members of the board to do a invocation, and then I'll do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'll turn it over or ask for nominations for the election of the chair. We have somebody who wants to do the invocation. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight for the new year. We ask my projects, good decisions, and practices, and the decisions for the year. Of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first order of business for the King George County Service Authority Board meeting is to nominate the chair. So I would call for nominations for election of the chair.
I will make a motion to nominate for chair Mr. Alan Parker.
Second.
Yeah, I have a motion and a proper second. Do I have a discussion? No discussion. I'd ask for a roll call vote. Ms. Bender?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Mr. Parker is now chair, and you will get the gavel.
All right, thank you everyone for the vote of confidence. Look forward to serving this year. Onto further business, we need to establish a meeting schedule for 2023. Oh, sorry, we have to elect the vice chair. I'm getting ahead of myself. And we have to elect the secretary treasurer. So do I have a nomination for vice chairman?
I will make a motion for Ms. Carrie Cleveland to be the vice chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 And the chair votes aye. It's unanimous. Ms. Cleveland?
You have to leave. Now you have to go down there.
Uh, Final position we need is secretary treasurer. Do I have a nomination?
I will make a motion for Mr. Christopher Miller to be the secretary treasurer.
I second.
It's been a motion made and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Motion carries. On to the establishment of the meeting schedule for 2023. Do I have a motion on that?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we adopt the same meeting schedule as the Board of Supervisors, that being the second Tuesday in July and the second Tuesday in November would be the key differences from that which was published in the packet.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. Do I have any discussion? All right, let's have a vote.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. We'll be meeting the same time, same place and dates as the Board of Supervisors. Final item is the adoption of the electronic participation policy as shown in the agenda packet.
I will make a motion to adopt the electronic participation policy included in the packet.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And chair votes aye. Motion carries. Mr. Miller, do we have any amendments to the agenda for tonight?
No, sir.
Moving on, we're moving on to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to make any public comment? Is there anyone online, Mr. Dines?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing that there's no one to make public comment tonight, we will move on to reports of board members. We'll start with Ms. Binder.
Thank you very much. I want to wish everyone a happy new year. And I wanted to point out to people, keep in mind, especially the last week with all the cold temperatures, a lot of businesses and locations, especially in the north, had their pipes burst. So be a little kind with businesses in that, because the stress on the pipes, a lot of the times it wasn't their fault. And I know we've had some things with the service authorities. So cold weather does a lot to infrastructure. So just remember that. Thank you.
Ms. Cleveland?
I just wanted to pass on to the board that I did receive the voting for the work sessions. I think it was on the 10th and the 11th, and I didn't vote just because it doesn't matter to me which one it is. So.
Ms. Kupka?
No report.
Mr. Morris?
I'd just like to thank everyone for their support. over the last year as my run as chairman. And Mr. Parker, I wish you well in the position this year. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple things from my report. One, I do want to thank Mr. Miller for helping out during his time away. We had a small issue with the water crop up in Hop Yard. Turned out it was a fire hydrant got opened up and it made the water a little discolored. But thankful that he and Mr. John Eisenweiss answered the questions on that real quick. And when I was calling him early in the morning to get some answers for the residents of Hop Yard. And so I really do appreciate that. And thank everyone in the Service Authority for a great year last year. And look forward to being here and helping this organization perform well this year. And with that, we'd like to make a thank you statement to Mr. James Morris for his year of service as chairman. And we have a plaque.
Thank you.
Moving on to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye, motion carries. Report from the county attorney, Ms. Lackey.
Good evening. So I did a little bit of historical research about the rules and procedures for the Service Authority Board. What I was told was that they definitely needed an overhaul, so I didn't propose any last year. And prior to that, when Mr. Britton was still the county attorney, he did not propose any for the previous year. So it looks like there's been 2 calendar years in which there have been no standing rules, which is certainly something you all can do. There are bylaws that do exist for the Service Authority. They date to 1992. They're pretty short. But I do recommend that this board consider adoption of rules and procedures. And to that end, I took a look at what was adopted 2 years ago. It was about a 4 or 5 page document. And then I aspired to keep it as short as possible, but I did want to be as complete as possible. So the final proposed rules and procedures are about half the length of the Board of Supervisors, but they do incorporate a lot of the same content from what are the bylaws of the Board of Supervisors, but are functionally rules and procedures in large part. And I just wanted to mention it in my report because I didn't know if you all would be prepared to act on that, if you had any questions, or if you wanted to reserve rules and procedures aside from the electronic meeting policy, which you just adopted. I didn't know if those were something you all wanted to consider at a work session or if you were ready to act on them. That's at your pleasure.
I guess I'll take a kind of a feeling of what people would like to do, whether they'd like to act on it tonight or take some time to look it over and act on it in the future.
I would agree with that sentiment. Take time to look it over, discuss it in a work session.
Same. And we have that work session scheduled, or we'll have it scheduled, so that would be good. But also having the ability to bring you some questions, which I don't have today.
Yeah, I think we just need to have Ms. Petrisky kind of pull together the final poll in terms of, I will say this, on the 10th, there is going to be a landfill advisory committee meeting and I'm a part of that. I know Mr. Collins is a part of that. So I mean, maybe it needs to be the 11th, but if it was later in the night, I could do it on the 10th, but we'll get you a final in set up an agenda and all that kind of stuff. Is that what you guys were hoping to do?
So what I'm hearing on the rules and procedures is that we'll take a look at them in the work session. I guess they're in the packet, take a look at them before that, so that way if there's comments and questions, whatnot, we can work it out then, and then maybe formally adopt them at a future meeting. Does that work for everyone?
I just have one, Mr. Chair. Ms. Ike, can you send them out outside of the packet, just in a separate email? Thank you.
I have a question for Ms. Lackey. On the electronic meeting, it says we have to state our location. Is that a state requirement? Because in this day and age of security, if I'm attending remotely, I don't want to advertise that my house is empty to the world.
Right, and I think that was a sentiment maybe some other folks shared because the General Assembly did change that as of July. It just has to be a general description of the location. So my interpretation of that is you can say, I'm not present, in the vicinity of the Rivercombe building or something like that. So whatever people feel comfortable with, they can give a physical address, they could give a generality, like I'm in Richmond, I'm in Miss Cleveland's case, I'm out of the country. You don't have to say that, but if you chose to, you can.
It just seems in this day and age of security and protecting your stuff and all the things they say not to post and not post on social media and not say this and not say that, that the fact that the General Assembly will put that into the requirement seems very contradictory to what all the law enforcement agencies are recommending and folks like Homeland Security and stuff.
Yeah, I think it would be sufficient if someone said, I'm at a private location outside of King George for the duration of this meeting, something along those lines. If anyone had any questions about, meeting the legal obligation, but keeping it, as tight as possible, I'd be happy to answer those questions as they come up.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question, Ms. Lackey. Is there anything in these rules and procedures that is outside of what's in the Board of Supervisors?
There are a couple things. Let me pull up my summary here. So meeting cancellations, it's just slightly different just because this board doesn't have quite the same requirements that the Board of Supervisors has. There's also some provision in the bylaws, that 1992 document that I mentioned, which also could be changed. You would just have to advertise, you'd have to include in your agenda what those proposed changes were if you wanted to consider them. But the meeting cancellation is slightly different. Special meeting, also the minimum notice is a little bit more permissive, shall we say, than the Board of Supervisors. I think you only need like 2 days notice or something like that to convene a special meeting if you desire. And then it is just a bit shorter than the Board of Supervisors, so I did not insert the closed meeting procedures. That I believe those are adequately stated in the Virginia Code, unless there is a reason that you all would want to go ahead and state in your procedures what the working understanding of those rules are. The duties of the Secretary Treasurer are slightly different from those of the Clerk of Board of Supervisors, so that's just slightly different. And then the very final provisions of the proposed rules, I followed what was included in the 2020 rules, which did have specific provisions about to what degree individual directors may make requests or direction to the general manager. And I believe those follow what existing practices are. And again, they're very closely follow what we're in the 2020 rules, but those are spelled out in more detail than the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? All right, so we'll take a look at these at our work session meeting, and have any comments and questions there so that we can adopt these at a future meeting. Moving on, there's no presentations, reports, no action items, discussion items, which brings us to the general manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things, I guess, I would just want to point out, and I believe that if you do receive KG alerts, then you did receive the KG alert from the 27th, where we had a force main, sewer main that blew there at Commerce and Potomac. The maintenance crews were able to repair that. That was about a 6-hour event. I think they indicated that there was some spillage into ditches, but they had the pump truck that cleaned it out. We've notified DEQ because that is a requirement. And, as per the requirements, and my hat's off to John Eisenbeis and his crew and all the crews that were a part of that for taking care of that. And it was a weather-related issue that had happened at Dahlgren, and so they had some water service to Dahlgren that had been interrupted, and so it then caused an issue down with the force main. In addition to what Mr. Chairman had referred to in Hop Yard, you may have also received a KG alert regarding the service in Claydale that was impacted a couple days ago. The difficulty that they had was locating where the line break was. It was underneath a fence in a neighbor in one of the homes there, and so once they were able to locate that, they were able to get it back on and repaired and get it back on. But a good job on the part of the water maintenance folks and all those people that were a part of that as well as the maintenance crews who responded to that. So I don't know if Ms. Lackey wants to give just a general overview of our where we are with DEQ, but we did receive some correspondence back from them, and we're going to continue to work with them. I guess that's the best way to phrase it. But I think we still have a long way to go on the proposed consent order for Dahlgren and Perkins, but we are certainly working with them. And a lot also relates to the operations of the wastewater service and how that all kind of unfolds. So it's kind of a ongoing negotiations. And I can, as I said, I'll be happy to let Ms. Lackey add any more that she feels is appropriate. I would like to just say this, and I know you all know that LaWanda Smith had, I guess I would say she left for an opportunity to go to work in the Washington D.C. area, and we wish her a tremendous amount of luck and best wishes. She was a very good employee and served me well and served this board as well as the Board of Supervisors. In her place right now is Lauren Petruski, and so she is who you want to address any questions to right now. We do have an active search that's going on, but we want Lauren to feel that she has all the support, and she's doing a great job. Kind of a tough time to be doing that job when it falls around Christmas time and New Year's and all that kind of stuff, but she's done a fabulous job. So that's all I have to say about that. I don't know if you want to.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. With that, I'll take a final motion.
Yeah, I was just going to tag on to the comment about DEQ. So as you will recall, we were preparing to respond to DEQ to give DEQ a response on some negotiation points And then in the interim, there was the incident in Fairview Beach with another upset, another spill. And so in light of that, DEQ has withdrawn their side of the negotiation. And so most likely we'll see a increased penalty amount, frankly. They'll respond. Hopefully they'll give us an opportunity to have discussions of another consent order, but we're just waiting to hear back from DEQ before we have any additional action on that.
Is there anything else? All right. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, we're having a work session next week, right? Is that what you're looking for? So can we firm up the date so we know what?
Yeah. We confirm, does the 11th work for everybody? For the work session?
I think Ms. Petruski indicated the 11th seems to be the majority.
Yeah, we can make it the 11th.
Thank
If you
you.
would like to do it at the same time at 5:30, or if you want
Do we
to,
want 5:30, 6? What is everybody's kind of feeling on that?
is this available here? Oh, it would be at fire and rescue, so the time really isn't a factor.
Does 5:30 work for everybody, Mr. Morris? So let's make it the 11th at 5:30 at the fire and rescue.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to adjourn to January 11th at 5:30 at Company 1.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We are adjourned.
Being the King George County Board of Supervisors meeting. And Mr. Miller, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay. With that, I will open the floor for public comment. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person in order to afford everyone an opportunity to speak. If comments relate to a specific public hearing item, we ask that you offer those comments at the time of the public hearing. Open the floor to public comment. Seeing no one, Mr. Dines, is there anyone online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Did anyone receive correspondence to share? Okay, then I will close public comment and I will move to reports of members of the board. Ms. Binder.
Here, I was trying to find my email that I received. I did finally, I wanted to know, let the public know, I did receive an email from All Points Broadband telling that they are moving ahead in King George. And I don't want to hold up the meeting to read the board meeting, but if anyone has any interest to find out exactly what they told me, please contact me and I'll send you the email because I don't want to hold up all the board reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. Mr. Collins.
Report.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Ms. Kupka.
No report.
Thank you, Ms. Kupka. Mr. Stonehill.
Just going to say Happy New Year to everybody and to King George. I don't have a report, but I do need to reappoint one of my planning commission members. So I would like to reappoint Mr. Ross DeVries for another term on the planning commission.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stonehill. Okay, I have a very brief board report. It is really just an opportunity to recognize our previous chair, Mr. Stonehill. Knowing as the chair, it is just a responsibility, and so I know that we all really appreciate Mr. Stonehill, the time you put in and the steady hand you had at the wheel for us for the past year. So thank you, sir, for your time as the chair. And so it says, with in appreciation of your dedication and hard work in serving as chairman of the King George County Board of Supervisors, January 1st through December 31st, 2022. Mr. Stone. Okay, that concludes my board report and includes all reports of members of the board. So I will entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve this consent agenda as posted.
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries. Constitutional officers, no one to provide any. Sheriff Giles is here, but he was shaking his head that he did not have a report. But good to see you, Sheriff Giles. Thank you for coming out. Report of the county attorney.
Good evening. The Commissioner of Revenue did receive an inquiry from the State Corporation Commission asking if King George intended to, and I don't know, I can only speculate on the reason for the request, but they wanted to know if King George was looking at implementing a revenue sharing provision that was enacted in 2020 legislation for solar facilities, for commercial solar. So this is for fairly large scale solar facilities of a certain size. There's a revenue sharing. If that's something that's of interest to this board, you don't necessarily have to consider it now. I can bring it back to you all and give you some options for ordinance drafting, but it is an option that provides that for facilities of a certain size, some portion of the revenue can come back to the county. So that's just a placeholder ordinance that can be enacted. It's totally optional. I just bring it up because it is an option that could be exercised in King George, and at least one state official is kind of asking if or when King George might be considering that issue.
Does anyone have questions for the county attorney? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Lackey. See, we have no reports, no presentations, and we do have one action item for appointments of board members to area boards and commissions. I believe in the packet it is the list of appointments that we used last year as probably a starting point, but I will entertain a motion upon whether anyone would like to either approve these or any modifications.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may, I'd just like to point out to my colleagues, you will note the Rappahannock Regional Jail Board Commission. I previously served 2 years on that. It is now marked available. It states it meets on the fourth Thursday of every other month, but I believe the meetings are actually quarterly. Do I have that right, Sheriff Giles? Yes. Yeah, so the time obligation is a little bit less on that. It is the fourth Thursday of every quarter. So there would be one coming up in January. They start typically on Thursdays at 1 o'clock up at the jail, unless a special meeting is required. There may be one special meeting a year. So just to let my colleagues know, there is an opening there, and that's what the time requirement is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Is anyone interested in the regional jail board position or opening? Mr. Collins?
I'll do it, yes.
Okay. In that case, I'll entertain a motion either upon commissions as a whole, or if we want to break it down by individual ones, we can go through each one individually.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
also available for the Comrel as an alternate.
Sir,
Nobody's interested, I'll take it.
sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
With that, I'd like to make a motion as the appointments of the members of the board to the area boards and commission as presented.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. May I ask that we have a modification just to account for Mr. Collins saying that you would serve as the Comrel and the Regional Jail Board Commission, the Comrel alternate and the Regional Jail Board Commission member, since it's in the packet, not that way.
So as amendment for the available spot for the Regional Jail Board, Mr. Collins, and Naval Service Weapons Center, Comrel, Mr. Collins as the alternate.
Second.
Thank you. Motion properly seconded. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right. Okay, with that, I'll move on to the county administrator's report.
I would just like to point out that at your individual desk there, we had the VACO legislative priorities. If you're interested in looking at that, if there's things you want to ask them about, if I received that, you may have also all received that individually as well, but that's their priorities, coming up for the legislative session. And I guess if there's other things that you want us to advocate for, let us know and we'll get it in the right hands at VACO and see what we can accomplish. So that is it.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I will entertain a motion. I'd
like to make a motion to adjourn to January 17th at 6:30 in this room.
Second.
I have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries. We are adjourned.